Today, you're going to discover the truth of what it takes to get clients for your cleaning company. So many people focus on the end, where am I going to get the leads? And they forget about the beginning, who the heck am I going to serve? It's so frustrating as a coach when I hear people go, I want to double my business and I've got this and I've got that. And I go, well, who's your customer? Who do you serve? And they're like kind of confidently going, everybody, I got commercial and I got short-term rentals and I do residential and I do and they're like really proud and they kind of feel like, oh, because I have so much opportunity, I'll just grow. But the reality is that would be like me saying, hey, I'm the best in the world at coaching owners of cleaning companies and kids soccer. And I'm also a life coach. And I can also clean your chakra. I don't even know what that means, but it sounds fancy. So the reality is we spend almost all the time on the latest fad. What's the algorithm doing on social media? Facebook ads, are they working? How about local service ads? What's going on with Google? And almost no time understanding who we're going to help, what they really want, and making a distinction between this client and that client. The reality is the best marketing plan to the wrong people is going to help you drive your car faster in the absolute wrong direction. And it's so frustrating because owners of cleaning companies will come to me doing so many things right and they're still not making any money. And it's almost one of two things always. One is the money, which we're not going to talk about today, but we've got plenty of videos on that. And the other is their client selection. The goals they have for their business in terms of time and money don't match the clients that they choose. So we're going to do a deep dive on this video so you know exactly what clients to attract. And I'll tell you, the wrong answer is a bunch, right? So if you're like commercial and post-construction and short-term rentals and blah, 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 that's really going to make it difficult to grow. Having done this, I'd say probably 80% of the clients we've helped that are smaller, like we don't do a ton of under 20,000 a month, but those guys almost always have a bunch of people. The people that we help that are over like 50,000 a month, almost exclusively one thing. And the like 10 or 15% that are doing multiple, they've kind of gotten to that revenue level in spite of helping multiple types of clients, not because of. So sorry about the long preamble, but it's so important that we pick the prospects right? Like it's like, how do I have a good marriage? But I'm married to just someone that's not a great fit. It is going to be an uphill climb the whole time. If I spend a bunch of time on picking the right mate, the marriage part gets a heck of a lot easier. If I pick the wrong person, it's almost like, geez, oh, Pete, there's almost nothing you can do. So let's pick the right mate, and then we'll dive into how to get lots of them. All right, so there's really kind of philosophically two kinds of clients, one time and recurring. Within one time, there's, again, post-construction cleaning, one time move-in, move-outs, that sort of a thing. But we'll just talk through the one time. So with that, they're easier to get because there's so many of them, right? Because they're just by nature, lots of people are moving in and out. But they're like 20% easier to get. They're not a ton easier to get, but they're worth like 10 times, 1,000% less. We'll go over the money in a second. Let's just walk through the logistics of doing a one-time clean. Say we're not even going to do a clean. We just do everything involved with the clean, but not the clean, right? So we get the lead, that costs money. They call us or text us or whatever our process is to convert leads to sales. We got to talk to them, see if we could do it in the time frame they want and how big is it. We got to give a bid and we got to see if we can whatever. And again, we've never either you got to go out there, which is a ton of time for a one-time clean, right? If it's a like $500, $600, $700 job and you got to go out there, that's an hour or two of your day. If you don't go out there, you might be walking into a hoarder situation, right? So you're we got some risk. You're going to risk some time or you're going to risk the fact that you're going to give a right bid. So you've got to get the lead. You've got to do whatever your process is to convert that lead into a sale and do it without wasting a bunch of time because it's just a one-time deal and with as little risk as possible so you don't get a bad, that's another thing, you get a bad review, right? There's no relationship. If you just got one shot to get this right, if things go wrong, on a recurring client, we can kind of fix it later. On a one-time clean, this is it, right? So you've got to get the lead. You've got to make an offer. Maybe you've got to go do a site thing. Half of them don't even take it. So you might have to make 2 offers or do 2 bids and go through all that headache twice to get one client. Once they say yes, you've got to schedule it. You've got to make sure you've got trained staff with equipment available at the time that they want. A lot of the one-time cleans, certainly the post-construction things, are like, we got to have it right now. Everything's an emergency. So we've got to have the staff, have the equipment, get them to load up, put it on the schedule, do all that, get them out there. The staff unloads all the equipment. They go up to the front door. They knock. The guy's there. So they just give the guy a hug and don't clean anything, right? Now they unload the equipment, they load the equipment back up, they go to the next job, you build the thing, hopefully you get paid, you walk through that whole thing, God willing you get a good review and they don't get mad and they do pay. It's a ton of work. Just that without even cleaning anything. I wouldn't do that for a one-time job. Never mind actually having your team spend the 2 or 3 or 6 or 10 hours it's going to take, right? The big thing is it's high drama. It's last minute schedule changes. It's they're just kind of the worst clients. And it's like, well, but they pay the best. It's like, nope, they pay the worst, right? And just as a kicker, it's harder to hire good talent because the cleaners don't like it, right? It's a lot of whose house am I going into? What am I going to see? Like I said, there's a high risk for bad reviews. If anything goes wrong, all your profit's gone. So it's just a massive amount of risk. But that's kind of the obvious superficial problems with one-time cleans. The deeper problem that really keeps owners stuck is it makes you feel like you're growing your business, but in reality, you're just churning cash, right? And I can see this so clearly. Having coached people, they'll proudly go when I give them the spiel, and maybe you're thinking this to yourself right now, or if you're crazy, maybe you're yelling at the screen. But Mike, you don't understand. Last Saturday, I did a one-time deal, and I made $600, and it took me like 6 hours. I'm like, cool, good for you, man. And then we have a little bit deeper conversation, and we start talking bigger picture about their company. Well, how many hours have you been working generally? Oh my God, Mike, you got 50 hours a week, sometimes 60, depending on the week. Cool. How much did you take home last month? $4,000. And you do this 200-300 hours a week divided, they're making $10 an hour. So they kind of pick this very specific window or thing and go in this unit, and then they try and extrapolate that out like, oh, I make $1,000 a day or $500 a day. But when you really, because they're only thinking of the clean that they did, they're not thinking of the selling and the marketing and all the other crap that goes along with it. So again, if you're telling yourself, but I make a bunch of money on one-time cleans, really consider your total revenue, your total time spent. And if you start doing that, 98% of you are going to start going, geez, oh, Pete, I'm making like $20-30 an hour. So it's a churn. And the problem is because cash is coming in and cash is going out, it feels like you're building a business, but you're really just building speculative cash flow. And boy, oh boy, if you want to prove me wrong, try and sell that thing, right? You try and sell a business doing a bunch of one-time stuff, especially a larger business with a sophisticated buyer that's got some money. No one's interested in that. It's because people see like, geez, oh, Pete, if you're making $5,000 a month and you're working 100 hours a week, why would I pay you for that? I could do that for free right now. Okay, so that's one-time clean. I would literally take 0 of those. The only time I would take them is if I had a very good system and at least a third of them turned into recurring clients. So I would tolerate one-time cleans if it was really just a lead source for recurring clients, but that's rarely the case. Nice thing with these are you can stop them immediately because they're one time, right? And also just when you do the accounting, all of a sudden you're like, well, this month I did 30 grand, this month I did 50 grand. Oh my gosh, I only did 50. Like there's so many problems that go on with that. Okay. Now that we've beaten the one-time clean horse good and dead, let's talk about short-term rentals. So I consider these right between like recurring revenue, regular recurring revenue, like for commercial, hey, it's, 5 days a week, $3,000 a month, Monday through Friday, regular residential every other week, Tuesdays in the afternoon, whatever the case may be. So I kind of had this right in the middle. So one-time cleans, we don't coach our people to do it all. And if I owned a cleaning company, I wouldn't take any. I would focus 100% on recurring residential or recurring commercial. For my clients, so me personally, I would not do any short-term rental. But for my clients, we've got some that do that. I'm not as vehemently against it because at least the lifetime value is high. So the big thing with the one-time clean, maybe it's $600-700, but that's it. Friend, there's nothing else here. So the short-term rentals, it might only be $200 a clean or whatever the case may be, but you might get 2 or 5 or even 10 or 15 depending on, or, some customer might have multiple buildings. You might get 20 or 30. So the lifetime value can be really high, but I still wouldn't coach them. So if I was going to take short-term rentals, I would limit it to like 20% of my business. We'll talk about all the concerns with them. You'll start seeing where a little bit isn't the end of the world. Still wouldn't coach you to do that, but I'm not going to do that as my full business. There's just too much risk. So let's go over that risk. First, it's really hard to get paid up front, right? We coach everybody, residential, commercial, get paid up front. With recurring residential, it's super easy because, you just have their credit card on file, you run it the first of the month, and then you just do the clean. If you set it up that way, it's really not that hard. So you don't get paid in advance. It's seasonal. That's really the big one. It is so hard. I've had clients come to me with low months of 15-20 grand and high months of 50 or 60. It is almost impossible to build a real business that's seasonal. There's so many reasons. One, if you guys have a short-term rental business that's of any size, you'll have experienced this. You end up working all the time, the 3 or 4 months, and I don't want to say miserable, but it's typically not a pleasant experience. And we think, well, I'm making really, really good money. But if you've done this for more than a year, you know that the slow time's coming. And all that happens is your bank account kind of builds up during the busy season and you're miserable during that. And they're like, but I get a bunch of time off during the slow season. Nope, you're equally miserable because now instead of worrying about how to get all those jobs done, you're worried about how do I pay god dang bills, right? So even if you're like, hey, I have more time to travel or whatever, you typically don't because you're so freaked out about the money. And then even when you're making money on the good side, you can't really enjoy it because you're like, you know, the other shoe's going to drop. So from a financial standpoint, it's really, really difficult to build a business. Again, not sellable, not something you want to own, oftentimes not profitable when you take the whole year. And even when they are profitable, most business owners don't want to own that kind of business, right? They get burned out pretty quick. And that's just on the ownership side. And so there's so many levels to this. One is the ownership side. We don't like owning it. Two is the accountant side, the cash flow side. That's a pain in the neck. And then of course there's the employee side, right? They don't love it. It's hard to keep good employees. And I'm not saying there's none of them, but it's hard. Sometimes you'll be like, hey, we need 20 during the good season. We've got like 5 that are our core, and then we got to figure it all out. Good employees, again, there are exceptions, but typically they're not into, hey, let me work crazy for 3 or 4 months and then do nothing. Same reason you don't like it, they don't like it, right? So the employee churn can be tough. And it's also, a lot of times we feel guilty. We got great employees. We want to keep them employed all year round, and we just can't, right? So that's one. Two, so there's a seasonality. There's the cash flow. There's a way you experience it. There's a way the employees experience it. And then oftentimes, not always, but this is a problem for all more on the commercial side, but I wanted to hit it here in short-term rentals because it could be a problem. Anytime a single client represents more than like 15, 20% of your revenue, that's a big deal, right? So even if one client has like 30 properties and you do all of them and they're like 60% of your business, it can feel like it's their business and you're just running it, sometimes profitably, sometimes not. Because if they leave, you're stuck. Or if they want to make massive changes to pricing or payment terms or anything, if they have an outsized stake of your business, that just puts you in a really kind of vulnerable spot that's not fun. So that's not only short-term rentals. If you don't have that in your short-term rental, that's great. But if you do, that's something we want to look at. And if you are like, hey, I don't do short-term rentals, but I do commercial and I have that, definitely we want to start selling other smaller accounts or other accounts to kind of mitigate or dilute their risk. The next thing, and this is probably the biggest one if we look a little bigger picture, not just from the day-to-day, is the outside forces can just kick you in the soft bits, right? Whether it's COVID or in Florida, maybe you're in Florida and a hurricane comes through, like things can happen, or the economy tanks. Lots of things can happen outside of your control that will hit the short-term rental market much, much faster, right? Maybe they just pass a law going, no short-term rentals in our city, or there's a big or anything can, or it's not legal anymore. Just so many things can happen. It's kind of a newer industry, since Airbnb and VRB and all that came up, but recurring residential cleaning and commercial cleaning has been going on, I'm guessing, for hundreds of years, right? In some way or another. So I don't like the risk that it takes, both locally and globally. Like, say, Uber just kind of upset the whole market with taxis. And then locally, like I said, one little hurricane or one little thing in your area, and that's kind of the end of that. And I'm just going kind of all of them because there's so much stuff. I'm not going to hit everything, but I just want to give you guys an idea. And there's 2 of you. One of you that are thinking about doing short-term rentals. This should make it an easy decision. Most of you guys that are listening to this part intently probably already have short-term rentals. And the reason I'm hitting this so hard is a lot of times, the old thing about the frog, you can boil. I don't know if it's even true, but if you turn up the heat slowly, you can boil him. He won't even notice. Oftentimes you're boiling. You don't realize, you kind of are taking the things that I'm giving you for granted. Maybe on the bigger picture, you're like, I know generally 60% of my people's with this one business, or it's super seasonal or whatever, but you just kind of take that as normal. I want to make sure we shake you out of that. You can go, there's a different way. Like, we don't have to do it. So some of the other issues are with residential recurring, you get the same building and generally the same situation every time. With short-term rentals, you walk in, 10% sounds like, who are these people? They left it cleaner than we found it. We get paid the same, we have to do nothing. Great. More often than that, there's, did they how many people were here? What kind of party did they have? And, you don't know what you're going to get. And again, frustrating for clients. And that's the problem we get paid to deal with. That typically leads to more client, if not more client expectations, certainly, maybe more client complaints, depending on how good you are at managing chaos. But, some of the things that we all know short-term rentals require that regular don't, it's sheets, towels, linens, dishes, fridge, all of that, which, on a recurring residential, it's kind of negotiable. You don't have to do it if you don't want to. When it comes to the short-term rentals, if you're going to get into it big, you got to be able to do sheets and stuff like that. It's like, well, do I rent? It's just a huge headache. Also, you've got, sounds fun. We own a couple of vacation rentals, and sounds fun because we like we use a bunch of vacation rentals. We love being the guest. Being the owner's not so much fun. Same with being a cleaner. Did the same thing with the car dealership. I love cars. I bought cars and didn't love cars so much after that. So we think it's going to be super fun because there's people on vacation, but we forget we're not on vacation. They're on vacation. And again, a lot of times it's like, this is our big vacation and they're easily stressed out, right? So those are the reasons the short-term rental, just again, I'm not saying they're not in the same category as one-time cleans, which I wouldn't do, no way, no how, period, but they most certainly are something I'm going to want to limit. So if you've got those now, we can talk about one-time clean, any clients that you have and you don't want, right? So kind of the worst in order are one-time clean, short-term rental, and then after that would be commercial and residential. And by the way, we do post-construction cleanup. Those are just the worst version of one-time cleans. They're just bigger, scarier, worse versions of one-time cleans. Same thing. So I put those in the same category. The next category would be good stuff, but you're doing too much of it, right? If I'm residential, I'm just going to do residential. If I'm commercial, I'm just going to do commercial. If I'm short-term rental, I'm going to try and move to, I also wouldn't do commercial and short-term rental. I would do, basically it's the timing, right? Commercials, nights and weekends, short-term rentals during the day, typically 7 days a week, but at least it's still during the day, not at night, whereas commercial is at night. If you do both, now you've got somebody in the field 24/7 and that sucks. So if you're in the spot of like, great, I've got either one time I don't want to do, or short-term rentals I want to minimize, or I'm doing commercial and residential and I want to move to one or the other. Let's talk through that. So there's 3 strategies that you can use. And really this is something, if I was coaching you personally, we could kind of walk through it, but I'll give you the concepts and you'll decide which makes the most sense for you. So I'm a rip the Band-Aid kind of guy, which serves me a lot, but drives the people around me crazy sometimes. So if I was going to stop doing it, I would just stop doing it, right? I'd give all my people a 30-day notice and just be like, that's it, we're done. Super painful, but in the short term, but 2-3 months from now, voila. So not for everybody. I actually coach very few of my clients to do that, just letting you know it's an option. That's how I would do it. Oftentimes it's not the best option, even when I do it. So take that for whatever you feel it's worth. The second way is to just start being a lot more selective. And my favorite way to be selective is by pricing. One of my favorite problems to solve when clients come to me is, Mike, I've got a waiting list of people. And it's like, I don't need anything else. The answer to the question you haven't asked is raise your gosh darn prices, right? Sometimes we get angry in things like healthcare, things like that, where it's like, oh my gosh, we need, everyone deserves healthcare, and couldn't agree more. But there's obviously an unlimited amount of people that need help and a limited amount of people that can help, right? So we have to vote somehow. And it's like, should we do it by height? Should we do it by looks? Should we do it by who knows someone in the government? Money's not the perfect way to do it, but it's a good way to do it, right? People will spend more on what they value. And again, I'm not getting into the morality of healthcare. Good thing we're in a luxury service of cleaning, so we can absolutely let people vote with their dollars. And if I've got 30 clients and that's all I can handle, I could really only handle 25 well, but I'm kind of juggling, and 10 people that want in, guess what? I have more demand than I have supply. Certainly we coach our people to work on the supply, but that can take a month or two. In the meantime, we're going to work on the demand. And a great way to fix demand is to raise prices. And when you raise prices, some people are going to quit and other people are going to be fine with it. My favorite way to do it, if you've got a waiting list, say I've got 30 people and that's all I can get. Well, I start quoting the new people a higher price, right? And they either go, I'm not paying that. And you go, okie dokie. My waiting list went from 10 to 9. Or they go, done and done. And then I go, well, geez, what do I do, Mike? I can't even handle 30 I got. I certainly can't do 31. Well, I go to the worst priced one of my 30 and they raise that guy's price. And either he goes, okie dokie. And now I've got more money to deal with the problem. And if you have a problem that requires money and you have money, you ain't got a problem. And most hiring things do require money. It's not all that, but money is a big part of it. So you have either more money to solve that problem or the people go away. And I just keep going through. So say if I get enough people saying yes, I promise you, if you've got 30 clients and 10 people on a waiting list, you give all 10 new people the higher price and all of your 30 clients the new price, you're going to end up with 30 or less, right? That's just the thing. And guess what? If you don't, well, one, you've got way more money to solve that problem. Great. And oddly enough, they value you more. Shockingly, what people pay for an experience changes not only how they have the experience, and I've had construction company, manufacturing, coaching, the more that you pay, the better your experience is just because you paid more. It's a fact. I promise you. It's weird. You may think it's stupid, but it's the truth, whether you agree or not. And everyone's like, not me, not me. I'm like, trust me, it's you. So the people get a better experience. You have more money to solve their problem. And what happens more often is some people just quit and you're like, problem solved. But let's say you're the one where all 30 people say yes and all 10 people say yes. And you come to me and go, great job, Mike. And by the way, when you raise prices by 10%, you think you make 10% more? Oh, no, my friend, because your overhead doesn't increase. Your cost of goods sold doesn't increase. If your profit's only 10% to start with and you raise it by 10%, you double your profit, right? All that money goes to profit. So don't take price raising as a small thing. It's a big thing. So let's just say you raise prices on everybody and they all say yes. Well, I promise you, if you got double the profit, you're probably okay with that. But let's just say you're the one that's like, gosh darn it, Mike, I know I'm making all this extra money and I like that, but I told you I can only do 30 and you screwed me, I got 40. Raise the prices again. It's okay. You can do that. So the way one is just rip the Band-Aid. I'm not doing this. No way, no how. Like, be an adult, give them notice, right? We're not going to just quit last minute as long as they're decent clients and all that. We'll give them, 30 days or whatever feels appropriate. So that's the Band-Aid. The more moderate part is to just start charging the new people. Well, it depends. If you've got one-time cleans, we can just start charging all the new one-time cleans a ton, because again, there's a bunch of risk and there's a bunch of headache and you should get paid for it. And I still wouldn't do them, but I feel a lot better if I got compensated for the risk and the headache. And you go, well, Mike, if I raise my prices, no one's going to do it. Problem solved, isn't it? And you'll be shockingly, you'll actually get pissed because more people say yes than you thought. You're like, God dang it, now I don't want the clients. I've got more of them than I had before and they're paying more. So it kind of makes it tricky because you're like, oh, they're more attractive. So believe me, they'll pay. And if they don't, that's the whole goal anyway. So that's on the short-term rentals. If you're one of the person or on the one-time stuff, if you're one of the persons doing commercial and residential, or you're doing short-term and it's like 80% of your business, you're trying to shrink it, you can also raise prices on the people that you have here, like the commercial, like, hey, I'm not going to fire them all in 30 days, but if I want to move to residential, I'm going to raise their prices. And again, same thing. Some will leave. Great. Now, instead of 80-20, we're 90-10. Perfect. We're getting closer. And the ones that stay, you've got more money to compensate for, hey, I've got to do all this stuff at once. In that model, I'm also not going to take any new ones. So like the most extreme is we don't take any new people and we fire all the ones we got. Second most extreme is we don't take any new people at any price, and we raise price on the people that we have if they're not the right fit, or if we take one-time clients at the new price, it's super high. The kind of less stressful than that is, all this is less stressful in the time, but it takes longer to get effectuated. The next easiest thing, that again will take longer, so it's easier short-term, harder long-term, is to just stop taking new ones and not do anything with the price, right? That will kind of just take a while and start focusing out. And the way we do that is we just focus all of our marketing efforts, which I promise we're going to talk about. We're spending so much time on who we're serving because it is the foundation for everything. If you try to market to a short-term rental the same way you try to market to a post-construction clean, you are going to have zero success. Super important. If you go to my website, growmycleaningcompany.com, it's not going to be me marketing my candle business along with my auto repair and the fact that we coach. If I did, or, people are like, no, it's not that, Mike. I clean. I do a bunch of clean. I do residential and commercial. I promise you, good commercial clients aren't seeing that you do residential and impressed. They're like, this guy doesn't get me. Same thing with coaching. If I coach kids soccer and this and that and the other, you'd be like, I don't think you're the best at that. Same with residential. The fact that you do big commercial things, they're not going to be able, they might go, oh, they're a big company, but they'll be like, they don't get me. So again, just shifting the focus on who you're attracting will do a lot of the work, and just saying no to new people. All right, now that we know who we don't want, let's talk about who we do want. The best of the best are recurring residential or recurring commercial. I hear a lot of people say, I want commercial. That's where the money is. Or I started with residential. I went to commercial because it's more profitable. Having done this being coaching owners of cleaning companies for a decade, and I owned a cleaning company before that, I can unequivocally tell you it is not more profitable to build a commercial cleaning company than residential. We coach a 45% cost of goods sold, meaning if it costs the job, you charge a customer $1,000, you should pay about $450 in payroll and all that. Same for residential and commercial. Overhead, we coach 25%. Same for residential and commercial. The only big, and there's a couple differences, but the big difference where you can make an argument for commercial over residential is if you're going to build a multi-million-dollar company, if that's really an important goal, it is a lot harder to do that with residential than commercial. There are not plenty, but many more. It's not unusual to have a multi-million-dollar commercial cleaning company. It's pretty unusual to have a $2 or $3 or $4 million. There are plenty out there, but there's just a lot less. A lot of times you're doing 20, 30, 50 grand a month. You're like, I want to be 10 million, but you haven't even been 1 million or 2 million and 5 million. You don't know what you don't know, right? So when we're talking about the right clients, any recurring residential is good, any recurring commercial is good. It really just for me goes to who you'd rather serve, right? People think, oh, residential is more of a pain in the butt. It's really not. Commercials, again, they've got their own things. You can get a $3,000 or $4,000 account, but the sales cycle can be months, sometimes years. Churn's a little lower. You're like, oh, they complain less. You think someone that's paying you $5,000 a month is going to complain less than a $400 homeowner? It can be real stressful. Again, with the residential, sales cycles a day. You can get a client tomorrow. If one client quits, it's no big deal. With commercial, again, you might have one client that's 10, 20, 30, 40% of your business, and that can be real stressful. With residential, it's very easy to get paid in front. We coach all of our clients to do that. With commercial, it's a little harder. So again, commercial's nights and weekends, not that you're going to be in the field, but you still have people out there. And residential's Monday through Friday, so it's not, again, really go with what you want, not like, oh, commercial's better or bigger and whatever. And if you're generally doing, more than 20 grand a month and you're large, you're 80% or more in one, just stick with that one, right? Don't try and, I wouldn't try and switch. Okay. So once you are there, we'll go on the commercial. We're really looking for, my favorite are the 5-day a week, like 2-3 hours a night for 2 or 3 people, 3 to 5-6 grand a month. Those are the best. They're just like gosh darn ATMs. You can keep them for decades sometimes, as long as the business doesn't go out and you do a good job. With residential, it's really homeowners. Basically, we're looking for people that have money and need time, which often isn't us, right? A lot of times when we're starting, we're not there. So we market to and market like people that we would buy, oh my gosh, $500 a month for cleaning. I would never do that. Or I want the cheapest price. So we think that's what our clients want. But, we're selling from our own wallet. Typically, the right homeowners, they've got so they're homeowners, they're typically married, kids, pets, lots of things that take time, spouses, kids, pets, large homes. So they all take time. Income, those all take time. And obviously it helps to pay your bill as well. So you're looking for people that have those characteristics. So, and the easiest way to find it is just look for the neighborhoods. Like we want as specific as a neighborhood. Everyone's like, I want to be global. I want to do everything. That's all for ego. When it comes to making money, if there's a nice neighborhood, depending on the size city you're in, that's like 2,000 to 3,000 homes, and they're all just your perfect target market, I'm going to look for 100, 200. I'm going to try and build $1 million business out of that one little neighborhood. It's not as sexy, but who cares, right? Is this for ego, or are we trying to build a business here? When it comes to residential, I'm looking for the top. I can't give you a home value because San Francisco is going to be very different than Salt Lake. So the top 20% value homes in your area, we're looking for larger square foot. I don't love, unless you're going to make a specific niche out of it, don't love like condos. Like we've got a nice 7-figure condo. It's fine. It's a decent niche, but again, it depends on the area. It's not for everybody. Just, for the area, we're in Dallas, Texas, maybe 750 and up homes. Now we're not looking for the 5 million, right? Because there's not that many of them. You can charge $1,500 a month and that's all very sexy, but sometimes those people do want a lot of stuff. It's just not scalable, right? For my little area, it'd be like 750 to 1.1 million. There's a ton of them. You don't want them far apart, nice and close together. So really top 20% of income owners, married, kids, pets, larger homes, owners, not renters. That's really the easy button if you're like, hey, help me pick a niche. With commercial, it's a little harder because there's car dealerships, there's property managers, there's churches. But again, we like anyone that's 5 days a week, that kind of a thing. With residential, married homeowners, all that good stuff. Average right now, we're recording this 2025, about $400 a month. A little higher in some areas. Canada's a little more expensive, a little lower in some areas. But generally, every other week cleaning, $400 a month, easy peasy. All right, let's wrap with this. First of all, great job staying to the end, because I know it's really, I don't say tempting, but we all want to go to just tell me how to run goddamn Facebook ads. But if we don't know who we're speaking to, I promise you, anyone that tries to take your money to run Facebook ads and they're not clear on who your customer is, what their pain is, what problem you're solving, what you do differently, that's a great way to throw away a bunch of money. And second of all, if you haven't aligned your customer with your goals, even if you run Facebook ads that are successful to get the wrong customer, you're just going backwards. So great job focusing on this. We've got other videos. I'll try and put some links in on what to do next in terms of, now that I'm really clear on who I want to serve, what's next. We'll link that next. See you in the next video.